So my name is Ho Yin. I'm the founder of Rightly Social Media. We are a Instagram scheduling and automation software, and we help small medium business brands build their Instagram, whether it's their follower base, whether it's exposure. Tonight, I am very happy and very excited to talk about some of the hottest trends tonight about social media e-commerce. We're going to keep it casual. We're going to spend about an hour talking about some of the hottest trends, and then afterwards we're going to leave it for Q&A, so you guys can ask some questions to these panelists, speakers. So it is my utmost pleasure to introduce our speakers for tonight. Our first speaker is Elaine Lee. Elaine is a Hong Kong-based advertising art director for Ogilvy and Mather, and a freelance photographer. With her passion in photography and power of social media, she's garnered over a following of 184,000 followers on Instagram. Working with some of the best brands as a social influencer, such as Canon, North Face, American Express, she's regarded as one of the top 10 Instagrammers in Hong Kong by Time Out and Lifestyle Asia. Her work has been featured on CNN, AJ Plus, Architectural Digest, Travel Leisure, and more. We also have Yoonji Roh. Yoonji is a digital marketing professional with a highly data-driven approach. She has specialized in performance marketing for 5 years in various industries and markets. Currently working as a growth hacker at Grana, a global brand invested by Alibaba Ventures in Hong Kong. She has facilitated the growth of the brand globally, overseeing various paid and non-paid digital marketing channels over the course of the past 2 years. So, first of all, we're going to start off with a question to both of them regarding Facebook. So, how do you guys utilize Facebook as a platform for marketing for your brands, and how effective is it in Hong Kong today?
Can everyone hear me? Yeah? Good? Okay. Hi. So Grana is an online e-commerce fashion brand. We design and produce all our clothes as an own fashion label, and we're based in Hong Kong, but we serve all markets globally. We ship to, I think, 60, 70 countries globally. So Facebook is not just a platform for content, but we also utilize it heavily as an advertising tool. So it's a blend of both, and it plays very well together. And I'm in charge mostly on the advertising side. So we do utilize it very well in terms of utilizing our own content as advertising content, and Facebook is a platform that helps facilitate that.
So for me, hello? Can you, yeah, okay. So for me, like as my day job, I work as an art director in, one of for a advertising agencies, and then for my personal stuff, it's mostly on Instagram. So in my day job, like we work with global brands like KFC, North Face, YF Nutrition, Bank of China, HSBC, and all these brands. And I think Facebook, like having a Facebook page is almost like an expected thing. Like if a brand doesn't have a Facebook page, it's almost like it's not as legit as it is. And I think nowadays, like people, when they search for information, like a lot of times they go on brand's Facebook page to find the latest and newest information rather than go on the brand's website. So I think it's definitely like really important for brands to own a Facebook page, and also keep updating relevant content, like keep posting stuff, and doing the right kind of content creation for that.
So that was more regarding Hong Kong. So Yuji, you mentioned that Grana is not only focusing on Hong Kong, but they focus a very global market. How relevant is Facebook outside of Hong Kong?
I think there's definitely a lot of talk about how Facebook is dying, and no one's using Facebook anymore. But We do see, especially for driving clicks to the website, if you're using it as an advertising tool, we do still see a lot of traction on Facebook, especially if you're getting traffic to the website as an e-commerce platform. People still view a lot of content on their mobile device, whether it be on Instagram or Facebook, but you still need to be on top of mind through the desktop platform, because that's where most of the conversion still happens. I think that's applicable, especially outside of Asia, where a lot of the users are still on desktop, and I think that's why Facebook is still important as a platform outside of Hong Kong.
So the next question that I have is more related to how nowadays, like on social media in general, it's so hard to differentiate. There's so many players, there's so many influencers, there's so many brands. And this is more of a general question, not just Facebook, but how do you prevent kind of the oversaturation of both content, in Elaine's case, and maybe from a digital marketing case, from ads, and still be unique and still be fresh so that people could still relate and engage with your ads and your content?
I actually want to say one thing before getting to that question is about like relevancy. Like, you mentioned that people say that Facebook is dying. I think I recently watched a video where they interviewed these middle school students in Hong Kong, and students aged like 13 to 15, they don't even own Facebook. Like to them, it's like my mom uses Facebook. It's like not cool anymore. So I think like Facebook as a platform, it really depends who you're targeting. Like if you're targeting more, like mature teenagers, then that would be like a good platform to go to. But then if you're targeting like kids these days, like whether they're like 12 or 13, it's probably gonna be like Instagram or even Snapchat, even though Instagram story pretty much took over. Yeah, that's just what I wanted to say. So getting back to
Oversaturation.
yeah, that's actually a big problem for the brands I work with and also for my own Instagram page, just because every single brand is doing that kind of same thing. And I think you just have to be really aware of what's trending these days. Like even with like Salt Bay, like everyone's talking about it, but if you can have a post with hashtag Salt Bay, naturally based on Facebook's algorithm, like your post would, go like above other people's posts. So like you have to really be in touch with what's going on in the world, not just within advertising, but just world issue, whatever in general. So you can produce content that's relevant to what's happening day to day.
I think from a paid marketing perspective, it's constant testing and optimizing. So if you do have a target market, from your brand's unique selling point what your content is and what your angle is. You constantly test out different types of content, different types of visual, different copy, and you test out what your audience is attracted to, what converts, what gets them clicking, and that's how you target your audience. I think you have to make sure that you're serving what they want, what they need, and but also you're achieving your objectives in terms of are you getting them to the site? Are you making sure they're converting? This is strictly from, of course, the e-commerce perspective. And in terms of organic content, what's on your feed and what your followers engage with. Of course, the metrics are slightly different to what paid advertising performance indicators are. So I think it's important to make sure that you have those metrics outlined from the get-go when you start, so that you can constantly measure your success rates, but also keep an eye out, as Elaine said, of trends and make sure that you're serving the right content to the right target audience. And it's all about relevancy, but making sure you're measuring those.
Awesome. So the next series of questions is more about like e-commerce and specifically really about Grana's quite unique that it's a Hong Kong-based e-commerce company, yet it's been very successful in globalizing itself and being popular not only in Hong Kong but in the U.S., Australia, Europe. I find that very, very unique and very, very interesting. So, Yunji, given that e-commerce is so competitive right now, with many global players, sorry, with many global players, how do you see e-commerce companies established in Hong Kong? How do they compete and differentiate themselves effectively in the global market?
I think that's pretty tough regardless of where you're based. But there's a lot of different benefits and maybe disadvantages also of being based in Hong Kong. And I think from a marketing perspective, one of the advantages is that it is a very good testing ground in terms of different trends and being able to test different demographics to different types of trends. And it is very, it's kind of like a concentration of a lot of different things happening. So, I mean, in terms of online and e-commerce, it doesn't really matter where you're based because you're online. Like, as long as your customers see you as a certain brand, your aesthetics, your voice, and they can't, they can't really identify you as coming from somewhere and you don't tell them, then you're a global brand, you're an online brand. And I think that's what Grana has done successfully in terms of we're logistically based in Hong Kong, but we're a global brand. We come from everywhere, our staff comes from everywhere, our fabrics come from everywhere, and we serve customers all over the world. And I think that kind of resonates with a lot of customers worldwide. And we do have an advantage in terms of there are a lot of expats in Hong Kong who are from different places, and when they do move out of Hong Kong, they take that experience back with them. And I think that's kind of a word of mouth that we've had a great advantage of. So, yeah.
So Hong Kong is right next to China, obviously, and China's quite a hard market to crack for many people. How does Grana see the Chinese market in terms of like your marketing strategy and overall strategy? Is that something that you guys are looking at, or something that you're kind of maybe tackle another day?
We're looking. I think it's definitely a completely different strategy. Like I mean, I just said like it's online. It doesn't matter where you're based, but like obviously China is completely different. The social platforms, the search platforms, they're all different. We're taking very careful steps. So I think some people think that being based in Hong Kong will somehow make it easier when you enter into the China market, but I don't think that's necessarily true. And I think you have to be very careful to make that distinction. So, yeah, we're still in the phase of figuring out our marketing plans for China.
So, so Elaine, in terms of as like an influencer, what are some of the trends that you've been seeing brands are doing, and how they work with influencers? Like maybe in like the past 6 months, like has there been any, or past 6 to 12 months, has there been any changes in the way how brands are maybe being more experimental, maybe they're being more collaborative with influencers? Is there anything that trends that you've been seeing about that?
So I started Instagram like 5 years ago, and back then like there's no such thing as like content creator or influencer. It's just I share pictures online. And I remember the very, very first commercial collaboration was Daniel Wellington watches. They basically just gave free watches to all these people with say like over 10K followers, and then people who buy the watch with that person's username can get like a 10% off. And that's actually basically how Daniel Wellington got popular and became like a really big brand. Like it's literally just through giving out watches and then asking people to post 3 photos featuring the watch. But this was like maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, and I think this actually doesn't work as well anymore just because every single brand does that. You see a lot of bloggers, like every single post features a different brand, and like when you follow that person, you don't even associate what brand that person, works with, just because, they just work with like everyone. And I think like there's so much more different kinds of collaboration nowadays, like whether it's featuring a product on someone's Instagram or like even just like an Instagram story, behind the scene kind of thing, or like it could be like a trip where like they get like 6 Instagrammers to go to a place to like promote that place. And sometimes I actually get hired to not post on my Instagram, but just create photos for that brand to share on their Instagram platform. So it's more like a content creation, more like a photography service. So it kind of evolved from like, hey, here's some free stuff, post for us, to a more like, hey, can we partner together and work something out? And I think that's like a lot better now because like it's a lot more mature. Brands understand that influencers are providing a service of not just content creation, but it's also a media space for them to get exposure of their work. So I think it's like a more mature market, and yeah, brands understand that hiring an influencer is both hiring their content creation skills and their media um, space.
In the way in the way how you collaborate with brands, is it has it changed from, hey, here's a product, you take the picture and then you post it on your page or your Instagram page? Are there any more complex, like posting going on? For example, maybe you do a guest post on the client's page, or maybe there's more kind of back and forth going on. Is there more of that kind of stuff, or is it pretty traditional where like they just give it to you, you post, and that's it?
There is one, like a beauty brand, where it's like super complicated. I'm just like, I don't have time for this. So, like, they wanted me to attend an event in Tokyo, live stream it when I'm there, post 3 photos afterwards, and then they'll shoot a video of me using that brand. Like, it's just like a massive thing. But for me personally, I'm actually really picky in terms of the brands that I work with because I want the brands that I work with to be relevant to my own style. Because if I post something, like say, I'm not a beauty blogger or whatever, like I post a lot of my photography work, but if I post like a beauty product on my feed, my followers would be like, what the hell, you're such a sellout, like, what are you doing? Like, you're making money off us and stuff like that. And it just doesn't really match. So it's really important, I think, from an influencer standpoint to work with brands where you can create authentic content that relates to you. And I think from a brand's perspective, it's also really important to find the right type of influencers to work with. Because like, I've gotten emails, like mass emails, where they're just like, dear influencer, here's the watch that we just made. Like, would you be interested in sharing? Like, it's not even like, dear Elaine. So like immediately, it's just like, you can't even be bothered to address me. Like, you're probably just sending this to like 200 people. Like, why should I work with you? So yeah, I think like from a brand perspective, like you have to find people that's relevant to your brand that can actually, expand on your brand ideals and stuff.
So, actually, that I would like to add another follow-up question with that. So, how would you advise brands when they're reaching out to influencers? Like, what would be the best way to reach out to you so that it makes you want to work with them?
I think just being polite, like, or sending like a simple DM, direct message on Instagram, or sending an email. Usually it's email nowadays. Um, and yeah, just I guess like when you reach out to influencers, like do your research on the person that you want to work with. Like I've got questions like, I mean I've got emails like, hey, we want to work with you. Can you tell us your style? Like how many followers you have? I'm just like, if you if you're bothered to email me, shouldn't you have done the research of like at least doing some basic fact checking? Like I think that's kind of like unprofessional from like the brand standpoint. So I guess like it's just like common sense. Like it's like when you're hiring a photographer or hiring a designer. Like when you hire them, you kind of have a basic understanding of what their work is like. Um, so I think yeah, just like a simple email, simple polite email would do.
And when it comes to like, because so from a lot of customers that I have, uh, influencers is a very interesting topic because half of the people that I work with say that influencers are great. I get a lot of ROI, I get, good business, all that good stuff. And then the other half say that it's a total disaster. No ROI, it doesn't work. Uh, so I feel like there's some people are doing something right with influencers, and there's like a whole bunch of people that are doing something that's not right with influencers. And it seems like, it seems like some of it has to do with um, like picking the right influencer. So influencers are there's a lot of influencers that you don't know if they have like real followers or not. Like you don't know if they're like really engaging. And how do you have any kind of advice for brands in that regard? Like how do you pick the right influencer that can absolutely maximize like their time and their investment?
I think it's putting enough time into researching for influencers. Rather than just looking at the following number, also look at their engagement, their comments, like do they respond to fans? Because the truth is there are a lot of people who just buy followers and buy likes. And it's really, really hard to tell who has fake likes and who has fake followers. Like sometimes you actually have to, like I think there are tools where you can follow like a certain latest post and you can see a graph of like how their likes increase. If there's like a dramatic increase, then you know that, oh, this person bought like 200 likes. But not everyone has the time and the money to invest in um, that kind of software. So yeah, it's just like putting in time and like effort in like really just going through the feed and maybe looking if that influencer has like a YouTube page or a Facebook page as well. Um, I mean, these other than like time and putting in effort, I'm not really sure how else you can, you know, filter through the right kind of person for you. Yeah.
So, Yuji, I know Grana has a pretty sizable like influencer program, and do you, do you know? Would you be able to share kind of maybe some things that maybe Grana might be doing differently with collaborating with influencers that make it different and maybe like more effective in producing good content and getting good ROI?
Well, we've actually worked with Elaine before, so hopefully we sent a polite email and that worked. And we said, hello, Elaine. So we do have a quite robust is, influencer program. We work with both bloggers who are more web-based. We work with YouTube vloggers. We work with Instagram-only influencers. We've worked with a variety of influencers, and I think we kind of separate them in the sense of is this someone we've only just started working with, and in that case, what are we trying to achieve? Are we building this relationship? We kind of want to start off with their followers recognizing the brand. So are we getting enough likes on that influencer's post? Are people asking about the brand? Are we getting their followers to engage with our brand? Like, are they following us? Do they stop following us? This is a very manual process. We have a full-time dedicated person on the social team, like tracking everything, managing all the influencer relations, like emailing everyone on an individual basis. So yeah, it's just in terms of like categorizing your objectives. So, and you have to be willing to maintain that relationship, and it's a long-term investment. Not just in time of, in the sense of like money and resources, but also time and building a personal relationship with that influencer and making sure that they understand the brand and they're becoming more of a brand ambassador rather than just wearing your clothes and putting your promo code on their hashtag or on their comments. And I think Instagram is also a very difficult platform to track revenue, to track your ROI. Um, it was a lot easier when we were working with bloggers. You just give them a specific tracking link that comes to your website, and that's it. So you have to be able to kind of work with a variety of influences, make sure you know what it is you want to achieve, and be able to invest that time into building that relationship and make sure that the influencer is also willing to invest that time in building that brand awareness with you to their followers. So it's yeah, you have to work with them and gain. You're basically gaining their followers into your brand, and yeah, be polite.
So, so Yuji, what about micro influencers? So, micro influencers are influencers who are, I want to say maybe like 10, 15,000 followers or below, around that range. Some people have different definitions for micro influencers, but it's it's definitely not like a huge number. Probably not more than 20,000. Yuji, how have brands been leveraging micro influencers more as a segment to, or maybe have you guys been using micro influencers more as a segment to really collaborate with your brand?
I think we did at some point. We have different types of programs. I'm not completely familiar with the social and content ongoings, but I think micro influencers tend to have a higher engagement rate because these could be more. They're not yet very big type of influencers. They're more like friends and very personal. They actually like leave comments and reply to all the comments. They still have time to engage with their followers on a one-on-one basis. So that's a different type of following. So the way you propose on how to work with them and how they post on behalf of your brand could be slightly different. It could be a little bit more time consuming. The angle of your content or how you approach them might be different. But I think it could be slightly more time consuming. It's a matter of, are you willing to invest time on working with multiple micro influencers, or are you putting like all your eggs in one basket versus multiple baskets? Yeah. But I'm not completely familiar. What do you know?
Well, Elaine is not a micro influencer, so she probably would not know much about it.
1,000.
I mean, like at work, we do have like a list of like micro influencer. Like, so sometimes when we work on campaigns, we share with the client like this is the first tier. They're more likely to ask for payment, or like like we have to, um, yeah, it's like a different kind of collaboration. And then there's like second tier, third tier. So it depends also what the client's looking for. Yeah.
Okay, so for Instagram is becoming a really, really dominant force now when it comes to social media. Uh, it's releasing many new features almost every other month or so. Every 2, 3 months is releasing a new feature. Um, what what do both of you guys kind of think of Instagram now? Like, what is the most exciting new feature that Instagram has come out with lately that you think helps brands, helps influencers get the most exposure and engagement and revenue?
I think this is not that recent, but Instagram stories, it really helped me personally to add another layer to, I guess, my identity as like a Instagrammer. Because like for my work, like a lot of them are just like 2D photos. It's just like really flat. But with stories, I can share with my followers, like say the behind the scenes, how I edit photos, and sometimes say when I work with brands, like I'll do like an unboxing thing or like do some like recommendations on stories. So it definitely added another layer to it. And actually, like not just for me, like a lot of the Instagram accounts that we handle for brands, Instagram stories video views actually have more views than regular like videos on the feed. Just because like the little circle is like on the very top, people like don't want to scroll as much. So I think like having Instagram stories is really helpful. And another thing is insights. My account is verified, so I get to access insights, and I think a lot of brands also get insights where you can not only look at the likes and comments, but you can also see how many people saved it, how many people like engagement rate, not engagement rate, the engagement. What else is there? Just some like just some stats basically. I don't remember. Yeah. So when I work with brands, I usually actually send these stats back to them so you can add them to the report or just as a reference. So this is also really helpful um, to just keep track of how effective the post really is.
I think definitely Instagram ads. When they first came out, people hated them, and we saw really poor performance in terms of like no one wanted to click on them. Everyone hated seeing that little sponsored text. But it's so like it's so mobile heavy that we've seen better, like the click-throughs getting much better. People are actually converting from their mobile devices. They're reading through sponsored content, going through to the website. I think it was just that Instagram was such a self-contained platform that people weren't used to being taken out. Even from stories that you can swipe up and read different content. So utilizing those types of different features as an e-commerce platform where ultimately you need people to go to your website and start buying. That's very exciting. And then Instagram stories ads, I think we haven't tested it out yet, but it it's probably gonna have the same reaction when the feed ads first came out. Like you're just going through everyone else's stories, what everyone else is doing today, and then you suddenly see an ad pop up and you just scroll through. But I think the behavior will adapt and change as time goes on, and it's a matter of who comes up with the most creative and engaging and interactive videos.
So now that we're talking about Instagram ads, which is more of like a recent ad product that Facebook, Instagram has come up with. How does Instagram ads perform now compared to Facebook? Are they comparable? Are they cheaper? In your experience?
Yeah, I think it varies depending on your targeting. So are you targeting females? Is it males? What are you selling? What's your geographic targeting? I think there's a trend. Like in the US, the Instagram ads tend to get more clicks. Like there's higher click-throughs in the US, but the conversion still happens on Facebook. I think it's a mobile desktop behavior because the way that tracking works in terms of the cross-device pixel and how your account is linked. But yeah, the people tend to click through a lot more. They're actually going and browsing products, so the behavior definitely changes. Instagram is still slightly more expensive. I think I'm not sure if it's because people mistakenly click through when they wanted to like it. I'm not sure, but it's still a more expensive platform in my opinion.
So it so we talked a bit about Instagram story, how it's a very new medium in communicating and getting more views and being unique. Um, have so Elaine, have you kind of seen how brands are leveraging Instagram stories more? Because I feel like is it still being adopted right now, or is it still something, or is it something where brands have started to get a really good handle on it and they're pretty good at it? Like, what are things that brands probably should be doing more with Instagram stories?
Hello? It really depends on the brand because the brands I work on at work are like big brands, mostly like KFC and before on Nike. So say for example Nike, say we have like the Standard Chartered Marathon coming up. Instead of just posting like a photo of someone running along the street training for it, we'd have like an Instagram story kind of telling the story of someone training for the marathon. So you can add a lot more narrative to it. But at the same time, like a lot of the big brands that we work with, because the Instagram story requires almost like a storyboard. So a lot of times they're actually afraid to do it because you need more time, you need more like approval process and stuff like that. Like for me, like I personally definitely recommend brands to use Instagram Story more, and I think it's also more interactive because it's like vertical format. It almost feels like your friend is filming it, and you're seeing it from like your perspective rather than you're seeing it from like an audience's perspective. So yeah, I think like Instagram stories, like brands should use it more. And then one other thing I wanted to talk about, like when you guys mentioned Instagram ads, is that since Instagram was bought by Facebook, I realized that one time I was browsing Nike's website, and then I didn't buy anything, but once I left the website, all these ads of the same pair of shoes kept popping up on my Facebook and on my Instagram and on like all these other third-party websites. And I read somewhere where like I think like a consumer has to repeatedly see that same pair of shoes for like at least 7 or 8 times before actually wanting to click into it and go back to your website. So with Instagram being bought by Facebook, like you can't actually, like target specific consumers in that way where you just bombard them with like the same message until they actually buy your product. So I think this is also like something that is quite interesting and can increase more, I guess, conversion. Yeah, increase more sales.
So what Elaine's talking about is actually what what I've seen like a lot of e-commerce brands do, which what Elaine is talking about is it's called retargeting. And what retargeting means is that once you go to a website, so let's say I went to Grana's website as an example, and then I go to Facebook, Grana knows that I went to their website, and it registers it in its cookie. So then when I go to Facebook, Facebook will then show the ads from Grana, and it will just repeatedly show the ads on Grana. And this is a really, really common strategy that actually all e-commerce companies kind of utilize the strategy. Um, I guess so. Yuji, like in terms of this kind of like retargeting, is this something that brands are all doing? Is it really effective in terms of conversions? Is it something that it's quite effective?
I think it can go both ways. You can either be really annoyed and hate that website forever, or you can be like, oh, I really need those shoes right now. And like you can set frequency caps. You can also alternate product ads with content ads, which is what we're trying to do, and not annoy you. So there's like two types. There's dynamic product ads, which is basically serving you the exact product that you were viewing but didn't buy. So it keeps reminding you, look at me, remember me, buy me. But then also serving you relevant content. So if you were looking at silk products on our site, we might be giving you blog articles about how to care for your silk. Or if you're looking at swimwear, we will tell you why your swimwear is so expensive and why you should buy Ghana swimwear. So it could be based on your browsing behavior, your interests. It's not creepy, it's what everyone does. Um, so it is highly effective, but you have to manage that balance between being very effective and being very needy and stalky. So yeah.
So there's a new feature that's upcoming that Instagram has actually released in the United States. It's called Instagram Shop Tags. And right now on Instagram, as kind of a lot of people would have noticed, is that there's only one link up in the bio. And it's only one link to your website, and that's it. So as they mentioned, Instagram is a quite high friction platform actually, despite it being so visual. It's very high friction. They don't want you to step out of Instagram. That is about to change. So Instagram has a new feature called Instagram Shop Tags where instead of in a picture you can tag people, you can now actually tag individual products. So, you can tag like my jacket, my shirt, my pants, the shoes, and with each tag, when you press into it, it'll actually jump into the website. And not only the website, but the product page specific to this jacket, for example. So this is a huge change for Instagram. Instagram is basically saying, I'm not just a social platform anymore. I want to be an e-commerce platform now. I want to make that final linkage from curated content to actual consumption. This feature is only available for a small number of vendors, like Warby Parker, Hollister, American Eagle. These big brands. They can now use this feature in America. I wanted to ask you guys what you guys think of this feature and how you think this is really going to fundamentally change not only just Instagram itself, but just social media and e-commerce in general.
Is that, so you can only tag the PDPs of your own website, right?
So
It's like tagging a product on your Facebook image.
So at the moment, how it's done is you can only, like, let's say for example you're Warby Parker, you only tag products from Warby Parker.
Okay, got it. From a brand perspective, so they rolled this out on Facebook, and we've been testing it out with a few of our own images on our Facebook feed, and it does involve quite a lot of like technical integrations in the sense of like you need to have your product feed sorted out, you need to make sure you're displaying the right currency if you want to display price. I think on Instagram it would be quite as simple as like telling them what the product is and just linking them to the site. And this will be very, it will be very different because people aren't used to doing that on Instagram, and I'm not sure what the reaction or how it was received in the US. It's currently out only in the US. I think for big brands, it won't make too much of a difference. They still have they have money to spend on advertising. This will only affect their own channels, what they post on their actual Instagram feeds. It will just be a nice additional feature to have. They won't have to constantly monitor and change the link in bio. They also won't have to write in their caption, check out link in bio, because that gets really tiring. But I think for smaller businesses who sell maybe like per image, they're selling a certain product, it could be quite useful if they don't want to spend money on pushing targeted sponsored ads. Then it's definitely a way to utilize your own channel and push links through just posting. So it could work differently for different size brands. But yeah, I'd be keen to test it out.
Yeah, just hearing about it sounds like it's pretty good because like sometimes I look at a blogger's Instagram page and I see a dress they're wearing. It's actually really hard to like click into that retailer's Instagram page, then link into their website, and then you have to go through all their products and then find it. So like along the way, I'll probably just be like, it's okay. I'm just gonna look at something else. So I think it would be really useful for brands and also like from a content creator's standpoint, because like sometimes I do get a lot of comments and asking like, oh, where can I get this? Like, well, how much is it? And I'm just like, go to their website, but then people just can't be bothered to do so many things, even if it's just like clicking two more web pages. So I think it would just be like super duper convenient. And also it'll be easier for brands to track whether an influencer is more used, like is actually effective or not. Like you can easily make like a custom link to certain influencers and then see how many people actually click onto that link from that influencer. So yeah, I think I'd love to try that out.
So let's talk a little bit about Snapchat. Just want to see where the state of Snapchat is.
Who uses Snapchat anymore?
So
Does anyone use Snapchat? You do. I only use it for the filters, but then Instagram stories also have filters now.
so I know a lot of individuals from.
Is someone from
Yup.
Snapchat here? Did I say the wrong thing?
I know a lot of younger teenagers. I know that they use it a lot. A lot of college kids still use it. So I don't know. That's why I'm asking. And so, do you guys feel that Snapchat in the past like 6 months has changed, or is it becoming more relevant or less relevant when it comes to marketing a brand, getting exposure? And let's just talk about Hong Kong first.
I think Snapchat in Hong Kong has always been more popular among like say students who go to international school or like more like the expat community. The local community, I see a lot of like local kids using Snapchat as well, but not as much. I think like currently the active users on Instagram stories actually is more than Snapchat. And I think Snapchat is becoming more like of a niche application where only like really young kids use it. Like I used to use Snapchat, a lot of my friends used to use it, but now like friends of like around my age, I'm around like 20-ish. We don't really go on there anymore unless we see like a cool filter and then we go on Snapchat, shoot it, save it, and then just quit and post on Instagram stories. So, uh, so I guess like if you're still targeting to like a really young crowd, then yes, I think Snapchat is still relevant. But I'm not sure whether the investment is worth it compared to Instagram. Um, yeah, I mean my sister is in high school and she still uses to communicate with friends. So yeah, but she also looks at Instagram stories. So it's like
I I think I think people use Snapchat. They definitely have better filters. It reacts a lot faster. Like it stays on your face. You can use two people. You can face swap. Um, and maybe Instagram Stories has it as well. But and then you post it on. It drains a lot of your battery. Like none of your friends are on Snapchat anymore. I think they have changed in the past 6 months, just not quick enough. Um, and it was never they never figured out how to monetize from that platform. Like a custom geo filter cost way too much for any brand to consider it. They didn't let you place any links. It was more like a peer-to-peer social channel that never evolved as quickly as Instagram. Um, so I don't know, maybe people still use it and it's a very niche platform. Um, Maybe it'll become the next Vine and that will be very sad. Or maybe it will suddenly change in the next 6 months again. But I hope maybe Instagram buys the filters so that we can have all of them on Instagram. So yeah.
So, so Elaine, I want to jump back to kind of back to influencers, and I would like to ask you more from like since you've worked with a lot of brands from a brand perspective. and also, I guess also from an influencer perspective as well. You were saying that like the landscape for influencers before the way how you guys collaborate has changed. Um, how do you see in terms of influencers, like new influencers coming up versus established influencers? How has that changed, and has that kind of impacted the way how you work with brands, or does that impact the way how brands work with influencers as well? How do you kind of work with that changing landscape?
I think like for people who, because I've also read another article where it's also an interview of like local like young kids. What do you want to be when you grow up? A lot of them answer, I want to be a YouTuber. I want to be a KOL. KOL is like uh, key opinionated leader, which is like the Hong Kong term for influencer. And I think it's great that now anyone can, have a following, but it's also like more and more competitive. I mean, I was lucky because I started Instagram. I started Instagram 5 years ago, where like there were like way less users. So like I guess getting more followers was a lot easier compared to now for someone who just started out. If you start out now and want to, gain followers, you have to put in extra time, extra effort in, like shooting nice photos, posting relevant content that people want to see. So it's definitely like a completely different landscape now compared to before. And what else? What was the question?
How has the landscape changed how for influencers and how brands work with influencers, I guess, as well?
Yeah. Oh, for brands working with influencers, I think like brands need to come up with more creative ways now, especially when working with lifestyle and fashion bloggers, because like a lot of like say like lives, not to bash on anyone, but like to be honest, a lot of Instagram accounts look really really similar, and for influencers like you have to figure out your point of difference compared to everyone else, and also um, for brands like you also like sometimes you have to come up with something more creative and cooler for them to post as well. um, in Hong Kong there's a lot of posts where like we're gonna have like an event, like just come to the event, shoot in front of our backdrop and post a photo, hashtag us, and that's it. But then like that doesn't really, like that's just like really basic. It's really surface. There's nothing really interesting in it at all. I've started seeing some brands where they actually set up like a video booth where they can actually make like a cool animation, like where they have an editor right there and edit the video right away and then post it. Like that requires more time and thinking in terms of creativity. But then I actually stopped and looked at the video rather than it's just someone standing in front of a backdrop. So definitely a lot more creative stuff, and also like spending the time to come up with something that's new, whether you're influencer or a brand.
Oh, great, thank you. So I'm gonna start opening up to the floor for questions. Um, I'm gonna pass the mic to the person who has questions, and then you can ask through the microphone. Just put your hand up if you guys have any questions for both Elaine or Yunji.
Can you guys actually hear us back there? Or kind of. Okay, no one's responding, so I guess not.
I think so, yeah. Anybody have any questions?
Hi. I just want to ask if I'm like a brand that's just starting out in terms of content and campaigns. What type of content and campaign would generate the most conversions or engagement?
What kind of brand is it?
Social enterprise.
Oh, so the question was, I'm a brand that's just starting up. It's a social enterprise brand. What can I do to create content and
Yeah. So what
market?
type? Yeah. What types of content do you find drives the most engagement and like conversion?
Well, what's your definition of engagement and conversion?
So like shares and like subscription.
So engagement would be shares and conversion is
like likes on Facebook and stuff like that.
likes. I think that's more on content creation.
So it's like, what kind of social enterprise is it? Like,
So we're like a platform where we create social media content that like kind of distributes news around the globe about like causes and projects that are more socially oriented, and also like platform for donations to charities. Sorry, can you not hear me?
or we can chat after because I feel like that's like a really specific question for like your specific brand.
Yeah.
Like, because like there's no set rule or set, I guess, a set steps that you can just do. It really, really depends on the brand, what you do, what you're trying to achieve. So I can't be like, hey, like just post. I mean, yeah, it's really hard to just give a general answer.
Dog videos or cat videos. Cat videos.
I do have to say that, like for any brands, videos do get more engagement just because Instagram and Facebook are both actually promoting video as a medium. When you scroll through Facebook, like most content that you see first are actually videos. So also like take note of like what Instagram as a piece of software is trying to push. So with Instagram stories, when it first came out, you just keep seeing Instagram stories first because that's a new feature that they want to push. So if you utilize their new feature, your content is more likely to be seen by more people than if you just use like one of their old features. Yeah. But yeah, let's chat later.
Thank you.
Hi, you've talked a lot about Facebook and Instagram, but I'm wondering what other spaces you look at online to source new customers or to advertise, or yeah, just other platforms and spaces online really to share content. Did you hear any of that? No?
Can you hold it closer?
Okay, is that good? So you've talked a lot about Facebook and Instagram, and I'm just wondering about other online platforms or spaces that you look to for customer acquisition or to advertise on or to share content that you think might be applicable to talk about.
I guess there's a lot of like third-party websites too, like even with like say Medium.com or uh, like more like I guess more like media sites like Hypebeast or like uh, what else is there? Like Refinery 29, like stuff like that. Because sometimes like a lot of those media sites they also do like sponsored articles that they don't mention it's sponsored. Uh, and but that's like a whole different thing. That's more like online media, not really like social media. Yeah, so yeah, just like collaborating with like other media channels as well.
I think it depends on the nature of your brand, but building your presence like as a company or as an individual on LinkedIn, I see a great value in that. And utilizing like links and content on the LinkedIn platform. I know it's a professional like networking platform, but I think we all realize that people have used it for a lot of different like, networking tools. Like you're advertising yourself and as a brand. Obviously, depends on the nature of your brand. I think doesn't work as well for B2C, but for B2B, you could definitely consider it. For consulting, maybe as well. And then for us, for retention and loyalty building, email is a great channel. I know a lot of people say like, oh, email marketing's dead. No one really reads their emails anymore, but people still read emails a lot, and I think it's a great way to talk directly to your customers. Maybe not just customers, people who could be just following you in your brand voice without any interruption. You're sending them just your email, just your content without any other videos, no other feeds, no other images, just your content. And I think that's very important. But also collaborating with other online platforms like places like Refinery or Hypebeast, different sites that could promote your brand for you that have a wider reach, and using those newsletters to slot your content in, and have like a smaller share of voice, but also getting into someone else's inbox directly.
One thing I do want to mention is like no matter what platforms you use, you can't just have like one piece of content and just think you can apply to every single one the same way. Like you can't even, I mean, maybe you can have like the same photo on Facebook and Instagram, but the caption might be different because like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or like other media channels, like each of them serves like a really different purpose. So you just make sure like whatever channels you use, like cater or tailor your content to that specific media channel.
Hi. Oh, I just want to ask, like, you know how on Instagram, and Facebook, how would you get more engagement in the sense that, like, you know, when people comment on your photos, like, would you reply to them or would you like their comment? Like, how do you get more engagement from all the followers
As a brand or as a person?
as a brand?
I think as a brand, you should be replying them. I'm, it's really tough.
Sorry.
Because,
Oh, sorry. What I didn't hear. What did you say?
oh, like in the States, Wendy's did a really, really good job in replying on Twitter. Like someone was commenting like they're worse than McDonald's, and then Wendy's replied in like a really, really smart way, like mentioning that like, oh, they use like unfrozen beef where McDonald's does. It's really hard for me to like, just say it, but like if you just search like Wendy's Twitter, you'll see that it's like a super smart response, and like you need a really good community manager to do that. And I think it's good for brands to respond to people if that brand has like a certain personality to it, and then when you respond based on that personality. But in Hong Kong, it's a bit tough because most consumers, when they go onto your Facebook page, all they do is complain and just complain and complain and complain about like everything. So usually, like what we do like at work is like we do respond, but it's like, thank you for your complaint. Like if you would like to blah blah blah, like please send us an email, that kind of thing. I think it's always nice to just respond so that you build like a community through that, whether it's a complaint or just simply by building relationships with like audience or your fan base. I think that does help increase engagement and also build community.
I think it depends on the platform. So I I feel like Facebook people tend to complain a lot, and maybe because you're on your computer, you're like it's easier to type. Instagram people just like send a lot of emojis or like they like someone else's comment. And then Twitter, it's more of an immediate response tool for customer engagement. It's like if you want an immediate response from a brand, then you're more likely to ask something on Twitter. I think like each channel, as Elaine previously mentioned, should have different content, but also be used as a different sort of tool. Um, and the way you interact with customers can be slightly different without losing the identity and the personality of the brand. Because like there's only so many things you can say on Twitter versus Facebook versus Instagram. Um, But I think as a brand, if you're asked a question, you always should respond. Um, whether it's hello, please email us, or leaving a direct response on the comment, or just an emoji or a like. I think you should definitely respond to a question. If it's not a question, then I think it depends on the volume of replies. So it depends, yeah, how dedicated your manpower is.
I just thought of something. So and another really like just small thing is that like brands can sometimes also just go to influencers pages and comment, and just by commenting, like you're getting that influencer's attention and their fans' attention when their fans are commenting as well. So say like if you see a blogger wearing your product, and then you as a brand can be like, oh, like like you look amazing in our whatever piece of clothes. Like just small things like that can also help increase more engagement.
Thank you.
Thank you. My question's about how you approach new format. Obviously, we talked a lot about images and video, and brands really trying to get involved in video and influence as well. But as time passes in the future, we're now looking at live video, we're looking at 360, and distant future is VR. How, as an influencer and as a brand, how do you approach new formats? And for example, how would you approach live video in the future, and how that might play into advertising and general content?
So the question is, how do you as a brand and influencer adapt to new features like 360 and live video?
Many features to the point of Instagram ads or Facebook
Right.
or AMP. Like how do you start that process?
I mean, as I mentioned before too, like whenever Instagram or Facebook has a new feature, they change the algorithm a little bit so that that feature, like content that uses that feature gets seen more often. So as a brand or an influencer, like I always just like hop onto it like right away, just to test it out and also just to get my content seen by more people. So with live video, brands and influencers, I think has to be a bit more careful. It's live, so like shit happens, like, and you wouldn't want that kind of stuff to go online. So live video is a little bit different. I've seen a lot of influencers use live video really well, whether it's like makeup artists where they just show people how to put on makeup live, and a lot of people engage with it. Um, with 360, it's I think there's a lot of brands trying to utilize 360, but none that I've seen that has really, like used it really well. I think right now we're still in kind of like an experimental phase where, like everyone's kind of just trying things out and seeing what works and what doesn't. But it's really important to at least give it a go and see if it works. And if it doesn't, then just do something like you've done before. Yeah.
I think as a brand, you just have to, and like as an individual who works for a brand, you just have to keep a constant eye out on new features, what other brands are doing, what like the influencers or people that you follow are doing. But whether that's applicable to you as a brand and what you're selling to your customer, that's a different question. So to Elaine, like live videos might or might not be applicable. To Ghana, like we don't have anything to show that would interact, like that the customer would interact on a live video. So that might not be relevant. There might not be anything that we can show on a 360 format that we can't show on our blog platform. And I think if there is something that that Facebook or Instagram is really willing to invest and push as a feature, they will also find out a way to monetize it. Like Instagram stories, they will develop it into an ad and they'll sell it to advertisers. So I just wait for it to be monetized and then I use it as an advertising tool. So that's how I use it as a brand.
I have a question here. I just want to ask about social media being one of the mediums of marketing. I mean, what I guess what proportion or percentage of your marketing budget would you spend on social media like Facebook, Instagram versus traditional media, say event sponsorship, outdoor media, or even internet media like Google AdWords and stuff like that?
Percentage of our online
Yeah, marketing.
media
Well,
budget.
it's just, no, total like marketing. So compared to say like television advertising, magazine, print, outdoor media,
I
etc.
don't think I'm allowed to disclose that in a public setting, but I could discuss with you privately after. Just like a rough estimate, yeah.
Startup brand doesn't have deep pocket. What would you recommend? Like how to promote the brand effectively, cost effectively through social media? Is it like in-house or you just do it organically through SEO?
Um, Great question. Oh, the question was how would you advertise or use social media without a deep pocket as a startup? I think that was also where Grana was, and I guess like every month we're like, oh, what's our budget, what's our ROI? When we started, and it's it's a very tricky question because like Facebook and Instagram advertising is very expensive, um, and I wouldn't recommend it to everyone. I think it's very important, but you do need to kind of manage your expectations. But I think SEO should be treated as something completely separate to social media. SEO is more about content on your own website. Social media is your content on a completely different platform. Well, it's about links and traffic coming into your website, but it depends on what aspect of SEO you're looking at. But invest on the content and getting people interested in the brand, and whether that's distributing the content through paid means or organic means. I think it's about investing in good content and making sure you have a bank of content so that when you do have the money to invest, then you can start distributing. And make sure you're engaging with the customers, with your followers, because it's not about just spending money and getting people to start following you. It's about when you're sharing the right piece of content, then people will start, like you'll start gaining traction. So I think the relevancy of the content is more important than how much you're spending to just get clicks into your website. It depends on the nature of your business.
I know we say depends on a lot, but it really does depend on the specific brand and what you guys are doing. Yeah. Fashion. I think like when you don't have much money to spend, then you have to use your brain, like like more, like harder, and like spend more time. I mean, like time and brainstorming are two things that's free, you know. Um, and yeah, like you can't just like get followers just like in 1 week. Like you really have to invest a lot of time and thinking and coming up with the right kind of content to share. And it's not easy. Like coming up with something new that would grasp people's attention in such like an oversaturated market. It's not easy at all. But you know, you just gotta try your best. Any more questions or?
What types of categories that you guys deal with in terms of brand influencers? As a brand influencer, like fashion is one of them. How about health and wellness? Do you deal with that type of brand as a brand influencer?
So the question was me as an influencer, right? Do I work with health and wellness other than like fashion? Um, so my feed is mostly like very photography heavy, like artsy photos, like landscape and cityscape, travel, urban exploration. So a lot of the brands that actually work the best for me is like tourism boards, hotels, experiences, um, and with health and wellness, I personally have never done it, but I think for a health and wellness category, you can easily find like influencers who are in the like doctors or even who are fitness gurus. Like there are a few like Nike. I know Nike just because like I worked with them before. There are a few like Nike trainers who have like 20K, 30K followers that you can easily contact them and work with them. So you know, like each category actually has their relevant influencers. So yeah, I personally have never. I can't think of a way that would work well yet. Maybe we can chat.
So, bringing it back to Instagram engagement, the change was a while ago, but now the feed is no longer like chronological. So I know some influencers they would like pimp out their latest posts on Instagram stories and stuff, but how does that affect your like posting schedule? Are there any new strategies to like still hold on to the engagement?
So I think like we, as I guess content creators, we all hate the new algorithm just because it just like messed up our engagement so much. And posting schedule for us in Hong Kong is still 9 p.m. for us because 9 p.m. Hong Kong time is when the US wakes up, when the UK is also like awake, so more people can see your photos. And what I realized is that the first hour, like the amount of engagement within the first hour of your post is really important, and it kind of dictates how much likes and comments your post eventually receives. Like it's quite brutal, and this is something that I've only heard people do, but there's these things called Instagram pods, where these Instagrammers, this is like some Instagram like underground secret. These Instagrammers say there's like 20 people in the WhatsApp group, and those 20 people, they promise each other that they'll like and make comments of more than 15 words within 5 minutes of that person posting. So that just immediately boosts, you know, where their photo sits within the feed. There's a lot of like these kind of tips and tricks, but I'm just like can't be bothered. Um, yeah, so it has affected like drastically, and I've seen people who actually get really bummed out because their photos don't get as much engagement, and in turn they think that their work isn't as good, which really sucks because their work is still really nice. It's just because of the algorithm, not as many people see it. And for me, like I've seen my photos, like now that like it used to kind of be on an average of like 5,000 likes per post, but now it ranges from 3,000 to like 13,000. Like so it's like that range is just like ridiculous. So it really, really like I don't even know, you know, what the algorithm is. Like there are so many articles where it's like hack the algorithm, like get your photos seen more. But at the end of the day, I think for me, I just focus on creating work that I like and sharing photos that I think looks good. So, you know, some people are really good at playing that game though. But it depends what you want to get out of the platform. Sorry, I can rant on and on about that.
All right. Any more questions?
Feel free to come over and just chat.
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Feel free to come up. Thank you so much, Elaine, Yunji, for tonight. Thank you so
you.
much.
Thank you, guys.